We're following the last journals, last signals, and last footprints, so you see what really happened. See 33 most catastrophic lost expeditions. Mysteries in human history. One expedition left a note, then vanished with 2 ships. Today, 33 dumb expedition mistakes people keep making out there. Like Flight 19's compasses failing, then Franklin's ice trap starts, and the last one is insane. Franklin expedition vanished in Arctic ice with 2 ships. 2 Royal Navy ships entered Arctic ice and never returned. In 1845, Sir John Franklin sailed to find Northwest Passage. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror carried canned food, optimism, brass. They wintered near King William Island as ice refused to move. A note at Victory Point later reported Franklin dead and abandoned. Francis Crozier and James Fitzjames led men south with sledges. Inuit witnesses described starving sailors, strange boats, and desperate marches. For generations, searchers found bones, tins, and shattered instruments. Then wrecks surfaced in Canadian waters, proving the route's trap. 2. Amelia Earhart vanished mid-flight on her global adventure. Her plane vanished, and the world still scans empty ocean. In 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan chased a global flight. Their Lockheed Electra hopped from Leh toward tiny Howland Island. The cutter Itasca listened as her radio reports turned tense. Clouds, fuel worries, and bad bearings made the Pacific feel endless. Noonan's celestial navigation needed clear skies, not stubborn overcast. Later, artifacts on Nikomaroro sparked hope, then arguments, then silence. Search planes crisscrossed reefs while headlines promised a quick answer. Instead, her last route became a moving target on maps. 3. Dyatlov Pass expedition vanished after a night of terror. 9 hikers died, and their camp looked impossibly wrong. In 1959, Igor Dyatlov led students into Russia's northern Urals. They pitched a tent on Kalatsiakho during harsh winter winds. At night, the tent was sliced open from the inside. Tracks showed barefoot running downhill, like panic had a timer. Searchers found bodies spread out, some dressed, some strangely missing gear. For decades, rumors blamed spies, monsters, or secret weapons. Modern investigators point to wind, snow slabs, and an avalanche rush. Either way, the past keeps one question: what woke them? 4. Cambisi's lost army disappeared somewhere in Sahara sands. A Persian army marched into the desert and never came back. Around the 6th century BC, King Cambyses ruled Persia and Egypt. Sources say he sent troops towards Siwa Oasis to punish an oracle. They crossed western desert dunes where landmarks vanish like erased chalk. Then a sandstorm story appears, swallowing men, camels, and water skins. Archaeologists found scattered bones and arrowheads, but nothing conclusive. Some argue the army was ambushed by rebels near an oasis. Others think the tale grew in retelling, desert turning rumor into fact. Either way, Cambyses' missing march still haunts Egypt's empty interior. 5. Mallory and Irvine vanished near Everest summit in 1924. 2 climbers disappeared on Everest, and the summit stayed uncertain. In 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine climbed toward the clouds. They wore tweed and hobnail boots, not modern oxygen rigs. Noel Odell last saw them near the 2nd step, moving strongly. Then weather closed in, and their tiny figures never returned. Decades later, Irvine's ice axe was found, like a breadcrumb. Mallory's body appeared in 1999, preserved, but answers were missing. The camera that might prove a summit is still unaccounted for. So Everest keeps a riddle, first man up or almost. 6. Percy Fawcett disappeared chasing the lost city of Z. 3 men vanished in the Amazon, chasing a city called Z. In 1925, British explorer Percy Fawcett entered Brazil's Mato Grosso. With him were his son Jack and friend Raleigh Rimail. They traveled from Cuiabá toward the Xingu, mapping rivers and trails. Fawcett sent a final letter, promising they could handle hardships. Then contact ended, and search parties kept finding only jungle. Rumors claimed hostile tribes, fever, or starvation, depending on the storyteller. Some later imposters surfaced with tall tales, but no proof. Z stayed invisible, and the forest kept Fawcett's footsteps. 7. La Perouse expedition disappeared after sailing into the Pacific. France lost 2 ships, and a whole Enlightenment mission vanished. In the 1780s, Jean-François de La Perouse sailed to map the Pacific. His ships, Boussole and Astrolabe, carried scientists, charts, and ambition. They visited Alaska, California, and Australia, sending reports from Botany Bay. Then the expedition vanished, as if the sea edited it out. Years later, sailors heard island stories about wrecks and survivors. Evidence eventually pointed to Vanikoro, where reefs can shred timber. Artifacts surfaced, cannon, anchors, and French objects traded among locals. Even Napoleon reportedly asked about La Perouse, proving the mystery lingered. 8. Flight 19 vanished and fueled the Bermuda Triangle legend. 5 Navy planes vanished, and a rescue plane vanished too. In 1945, Flight 19 departed Florida for a routine training run. Lieutenant Charles Taylor soon reported compasses failing and confusion growing. Radio chatter mentioned strange watercolor and the sun slipping. Pilots turned, then turned again, chasing an imagined coastline. As fuel ran low, the squadron scattered across darkening clouds. A PBM mariner launched a search, then also disappeared offshore. People blamed a triangle, but storms and navigation errors fit. Still, no wreckage made it home, so the legend stuck. 9. USS Cyclops disappeared in 1918, with 300 aboard. A massive Navy collier vanished, taking hundreds into quiet water. In 1918, USS Cyclops left Barbados bound for Baltimore. She carried manganese ore, and her engines already had a reputation. No distress call came, and no debris field ever appeared. Some blame German U-boats, but records never confirmed an attack. Others point to heavy cargo, bad weather, and a stressed hull. Her sister ships, Proteus and Nereus, later vanished in similar ways. That coincidence makes the Atlantic feel like it knows secrets. Cyclops remains a blank page in Navy paperwork and memory. 10. SS Waratah vanished off South Africa without distress call. A passenger liner vanished, and families never got a single clue. In 1909, SS Waratah left Durban heading toward Cape Town. She carried migrants, mail, and wealthy travelers bound for Australia. A passing ship reported huge seas, like walls, smashing the decks. Waratah was last seen near the Wild Coast, then the horizon emptied. Searchers found lifeboats missing, suggesting no calm evacuation happened. Some blamed a design stability issue, though debate never settled. Deepwater hunts keep scanning because no confirmed wreck sits there. Waratah earned a nickname, the Titanic of the South. 11. Mary Celeste found adrift with crew gone without trace. A ship was found sailing itself, with everyone mysteriously gone. In 1872, the brigantine Mary Celeste crossed the Atlantic toward Gibraltar. Captain Benjamin Briggs traveled with his wife Sarah and their child. Another vessel, Dei Gracia, found her drifting near the Azores. Food and water remained, but the lifeboat was missing. The log showed rough weather, yet the ship was still seaworthy. Leaking alcohol fumes may have sparked fear of an explosion. So they might have abandoned ship temporarily then lost sight. Instead of a monster, it was panic meeting bad timing. 12. Pan Am Hawaii Clipper vanished over the Pacific in 1938. A flying boat vanished, turning a luxury route into a blank spot. In 1938, Pan Am's Hawaii Clipper lifted off from Guam. It was headed toward Manila, carrying crew, mail, and passengers. Radio contact sounded normal, then the Pacific swallowed the signals. Search ships spread across thousands of miles, finding only calm water. No wreckage, no oil slick, not even floating seat cushions. Some suspected a sudden storm, others a fire in flight. Pan Am even offered a reward, but the ocean stayed quiet. That silence made early trans-Pacific travel feel brave and fragile. 13. Roald Amundsen vanished while trying to rescue airship crew. The polar hero disappeared, leaving his final rescue unfinished. In 1928, Roald Amundsen joined the hunt for Umberto Nobile. Nobile's airship Italia crashed on Arctic ice near Svalbard. Amundsen boarded a French Latham seaplane, flying from Tromsø. The Barents Sea is a blender, and fog can erase horizons. After takeoff, the aircraft vanished, and radio silence replaced headlines. Later, searchers found floats in fabric, like torn pages. Amundsen had survived ice, dogs, and hardship, but not rescue duty. It's a role reversal. The rescuer became the missing one. 14. Italia airship disaster sparked a deadly Arctic rescue hunt. A proud airship broke apart, and rescue became its own saga. In 1928, Umberto Nobile flew Italia toward the North Pole. On the return, winds slammed the gondola onto drifting pack ice. Survivors huddled under a bright red tent, broadcasting weak radio calls. A Swedish pilot, Einar Lundborg, landed, then crashed, becoming stranded. The Soviet icebreaker Krasin finally reached them, cutting through chaos. Nobel was evacuated early, sparking outrage among some Italian officers. Meanwhile, others searching died, proving rescue can be dangerous too. Italia's crash turned exploration into a public argument about leadership. 15. Lakehart expedition vanished deep in Australia's outback interior. Australia swallowed an explorer, and the outback kept his route hidden. In the 1840s, Ludwig Leichhardt became famous for crossing to Port Essington. In 1848, he tried again, aiming west across harsh interior. He led a small party with horses, cattle, and heavy supplies. After leaving the Darling Downs, letters stopped, like a cord cut. Searchers later found marked trees and a few scattered relics. One brass nameplate surfaced decades later, then disappeared into collections. Some suspect floods, others drought and slow starvation in scrublands. Leichhardt remains an outback ghost story, but with real footprints. 16. Mungo Park vanished on his final Niger River journey. A river expedition ended in gunfire and disappearance on the Niger. Scottish explorer Mungo Park returned to West Africa in 1805. He aimed to trace the Niger River despite earlier near-death experiences. Disease and heat killed many companions before they reached the river. Park built a boat, calling it Joliba, then pushed downstream. Local rulers warned him, but he refused to stop or trade. Near Bussa Rapids, canoes attacked, and chaos erupted in the current. Stories say Park and survivors leapt overboard, and the river took them. His journals vanished too, leaving Europe guessing how it really ended. 17. Scott Terra Nova team was lost on the return march. The South Pole was reached, yet the return became the disaster. In 1912, Robert Falcon Scott arrived and found Amundsen already there. Scott's team turned back, dragging sledges across the Ross ice shelf. Lawrence Oates grew frostbitten, then walked into a blizzard alone. Scott, Edward Wilson, and Henry Bowers pushed on, exhausted and hungry. They camped just miles from a depot, but storms pinned them. Scott wrote final letters, turning a tent into a time capsule. Months later, searchers found the tent buried, with journals still there. It's not mystery of where, but how close they were. 18. Greely Arctic expedition collapsed as supplies and hope ran out. A scientific mission collapsed into survival, and most men never returned. In the 1880s, Lieutenant Adolphus Greely led the Lady Franklin Bay expedition. They built Fort Conger and Ellesmere Island, waiting for yearly resupply. 2 relief attempts failed, and messages never reached them in time. Greely ordered a retreat south by boat, a gamble across ice. They became trapped near Cape Sabine, living on meager rations. Morale cracked, discipline tightened, and desperate choices crept in. When rescue finally arrived, only a handful were alive to speak. The expedition's record survived, but the human cost did the talking. 19. Polaris expedition split apart in Arctic ice and confusion. The crew split, the ship broke, and trust collapsed first. In 1871, the Polaris sailed for the North Pole under Charles Hall. Hall suddenly fell ill and died, and suspicion settled over camp. Captain Sidney Buddington clashed with others, and orders turned unpredictable. In darkness, the ship became trapped, then damaged, then nearly abandoned. A group was left on an ice floe, drifting with bears nearby. They built igloo-like shelters, rationed food, and watched months pass. Eventually, a sealing ship rescued them, shocking everyone who saw them. Polaris proved exploration can fail from people long before ice. 20. Jeannette Arctic expedition ship, crushed and crew scattered. Captain George DeLong expected open water, not a moving prison. Ice trapped the ship for years, drifting west like a slow conveyor. When the hull finally failed, crew hauled boats across jagged ice. They reached Siberian waters, then storms split the parties apart. DeLong's group staggered into the Lena Delta, starving and lost. One boat under Danenhauer survived, while another party vanished completely. Jeanette's logbooks made it home, but the ship never did. 21. Karluk Arctic expedition shipwrecked on ice after a long drift. A ship drifted helplessly, and a planned expedition turned into exile. In 1913, the Karluk carried scientists for Vilhjalmur Stefansson's Arctic plan. Early on, Stefansson left the ship for hunting, then never returned. Ice trapped Karluk, drifting towards Siberia like a slow, cold taxi. When the ship was crushed, Captain Robert Bartlett led survivors over ice. They reached Wrangel Island, where food meant seals or nothing. Bartlett and an Enoch Hunter crossed to Chukotka for help. Rescue eventually came, but several who left camp were never found. Karluk's story is a lesson in leadership and luck. 22. Crocker Land expedition chased a mirage and got trapped. They chased a new continent, but it was a mirage. In 1913, Donald McMillan sailed to Greenland, hunting Crocker Land. Robert Peary had claimed land beyond Ellesmere, and sponsors wanted proof. McMillan and Inuit guides traveled north, seeing mountains that vanished. Every day, the horizon promised land, then dissolved into flat ice. Back at base, sea ice blocked ships, trapping the team for years. Tensions rose, a shooting occurred, and friendships turned brittle. McMillan finally left with dogs and small boats, dodging breakup seas. Crocker Land never existed, but the expedition's mess was real. 23. Lost squadron planes landed on Greenland ice and disappeared. Warplanes vanished under ice, then reappeared decades later like time capsules. In 1942, American P-38s and a B-17 flew across Greenland. Weather closed in, and pilots were forced to land on the ice cap. Everyone survived, but rescue teams could not save the aircraft. Snow kept piling, burying wings and fuselages like a slow blanket. Years later, engineers drilled down, using hot water to reach metal. 1P-38 was nicknamed Glacier Girl, lifted out in pieces. The ice had carried the planes downhill, like a conveyor belt. So the Lost Squadron wasn't lost, just filed away by Greenland. 24. Nungesser and Coley vanished, attempting the first Atlantic flight. Two French heroes vanished, and the Atlantic kept their trophy. In 1927, Charles Nungesser and François Coley took off from Paris. Their plane, L'Oiseau Blanc, aimed for New York without stopping. Witnesses saw them over Normandy, then later reported sightings near Ireland. After that, silence, as if the sky simply folded shut. Weeks later, Lindbergh arrived, and their near win became a footnote. Some believe they reached Newfoundland, others point to Maine's deep forests. Scrap discoveries have sparked excitement, then fizzled under scrutiny. Their empty route still taunts pilots. First is sometimes just missing. 25. Lady Be Good bomber vanished into the Sahara Desert. A bomber disappeared, then was found sitting in perfect desert silence. In 1943, the B-24 Lady Be Good returned from a raid. A sandstorm and navigation errors made the crew miss their Libyan base. Believing they were over water, crewmen bailed out into darkness. They actually landed deep in the Sahara, miles from any oasis. The bomber flew on, belly landing gently, as if it had plans. Survivors marched north, leaving diary notes and makeshift markers behind. Years later, explorers found the plane, then the heartbreaking trail. It's a cruel fake-out. The aircraft survived better than people. 26. SS Naronic vanished on an Atlantic crossing in 1893. A cargo steamer vanished mid-Atlantic, and the insurance file stayed empty. In 1893, the White Star liner Naronic sailed from Liverpool. She headed for New York with cargo and a crew of sailors. No distress signals were possible then, so disappearance meant total uncertainty. Winter gales battered the North Atlantic, and schedules quickly became guesses. Two empty lifeboats later washed ashore, raising hope and dread. Some theories blamed ice, others a cargo shift, others a collision. Investigations had nothing solid, just rumors drifting like sea fog. Naronic became a Victorian-era MH370, long before radar existed. 27. Carroll A. Deering schooner found abandoned on Carolina Shoals. A giant schooner ran aground, but its crew was simply gone. In 1921, the Carroll A. Deering sailed along North Carolina's Outer Banks. Rescuers boarded and found meals untouched, charts scattered, and lifeboats missing. The ship's log and navigation instruments were gone, like someone cleaned. Captain William Merritt was missing, along with his entire crew. Earlier, crew members had complained about a new first mate. So, was it mutiny, pirates, or a rushed evacuation in storms? Coast Guard investigations chased leads, but each one snapped. Deering sits in history as a stage with actors missing. 28. MV Joyita found abandoned after a short Pacific voyage. A small ship was found half sunk, yet nobody was on board. In 1955, the Joyita left Samoa for Tokelau with passengers. She carried medical supplies, fuel drums, and a crew used to islands. Days later, searchers spotted her drifting, not far from Fiji. The radio was tuned to an emergency channel, but no message remained. A bloody bandage was found, yet nothing else looked like a fight. The lifeboats were gone, suggesting an orderly departure that later failed. Some blamed pumping problems, others suspected panic over a leak or storm. Joyita became a floating question mark, drifting through Pacific folklore. 29. Captain Henry Hudson vanished after mutiny in Frozen Bay. A famous navigator was cast off, and the Arctic erased him. In 1611, Henry Hudson searched for a passage through Hudson Bay. His ship, Discovery, wintered in ice, and tempers froze too. Food ran low, scurvy spread, and the crew blamed Hudson. In summer, mutineers forced Hudson, his son John, into a boat. They pushed them away with little food and no weapons. Discovery sailed on, leaving the small craft to currents and ice. Later reports hinted Inuit encounters, but nothing certain ever followed. Hudson Bay kept his name, yet kept the man himself. 30. Kublai Khan's invasion fleet lost in a typhoon storm. A vast invasion fleet shattered, and Japan got a stormy legend. In the 1270s, Kublai Khan ordered a seaborne attack on Japan. Mongol, Chinese, and Korean forces packed ships with horses and arrows. They expected quick surrender, but coastal defenses and samurai fought back. Then typhoons hit, tossing anchored ships like toys in a bathtub. Wrecks littered beaches, and survivors were captured or forced ashore. A second invasion later faced the same weather and the same fate. Japanese writers named the Wind Kamikaze a divine protection story. Behind the myth is logistics meeting ocean power and losing. 31. The Ninth Legion vanished on a march into Britain. A Roman legion seems to vanish, but the paper trail is tricky. Legio 9 Hispana fought in Britain, stationed at Eboracum, today's York. After the early 2nd century, inscriptions go quiet and rumors begin. Popular stories say it marched north and was wiped out. Yet some evidence suggests the unit moved, maybe to the Rhine. So the mystery is less blood, more bureaucracy and missing stones. Historians debate because Rome wrote on stone, and stone gets reused. But the legend survives because a vanished legion feels cinematic. Either destroyed or transferred, the Ninth still marches in imagination. 32. The lost Norse Greenland settlements faded into silence. Greenland's Norse farms went quiet, and nobody wrote a goodbye. Eric the Red founded settlements, and families built churches and barns. They raised cattle, traded walrus ivory, and depended on ships from Norway. Then climate cooled, sea ice thickened, and voyages became harder. The Inuit Thule culture arrived, and relations ranged from trade to tension. Europe's Black Death in politics reduced support, so Greenland felt forgotten. The last clear record mentions a wedding at Valsey, then silence. Archaeology shows diets shifting towards seals, a sign of adaptation. Still, the final move remains unknown, left, starved, or blended. 33. The Aurang Maiden ghost ship distress call mystery. A ship's frantic distress call ended, and then the ship vanished. The Orang Medan story places it in the waters near Indonesia. Radio operators reportedly heard a message about officers dead on deck. A nearby crew boarded, finding eerie stillness and strange positions. Before anyone could tow it, smoke rose, and an explosion followed. The ship was gone, leaving only a tail and missing paperwork. Some think it involved hazardous cargo, like chemicals reacting with seawater. Others doubt it happened at all because records are thin. Either way, Orang Medan is a rumor that refuses to sink. The Octavius ghost ship found frozen in Arctic ice. A frozen ship story circulates, and it sounds too perfect. The tale says the Octavius drifted near Greenland with a dead crew. Supposedly, a captain sat at his desk, pen still in hand. A logbook entry is dated years earlier, implying a long drift. It promises a chilling shortcut through the Northwest Passage before it existed. But historians struggle to find original reports, so skepticism is fair. Still, sailors repeated it, because ice makes every ship feel mortal. The Octavius became a campfire warning about winter, hubris, and routes. Whether true or not, the image sticks like frostbite. Malaysian flight MH370 vanished on a routine ocean crossing. A modern jet vanished, and technology still couldn't point to it. In 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur for Beijing. Soon, the transponder went off, and the flight path changed unexpectedly. Military radar suggested turns, while satellite pings hinted at a southern route. Search teams scoured the Indian Ocean, chasing arcs across empty water. Later, drifted debris reached islands like Réunion, confirming an ocean end. But the main wreckage remains unfound, so theories keep multiplying. Was it human action, mechanical failure, or something in between? MH370 proves even modern skies can still lose an airplane.